You better get that bottle now before your time runs out. So grab that extra bottle now before it can be found. Thank you. Thank you. Hey friends, how's it going? Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope that you're doing well. Today we're going to be talking about fragrances that you guys say that you need to get an extra bottle of, a backup bottle of now before it's too late. I asked you guys on the community tab of my YouTube channel not that long ago the fragrances that you needed to get backup bottles of, and that's what we're talking about here today. So why would you even get a backup bottle? Well, usually because you want to have an extra just in case the fragrance becomes impossible to find, typically because of discontinuation. That's something we've talked about on this channel a number of times, discontinuations, because most of the time, like 99% of the time, a brand does not really announce that a fragrance has been discontinued. What happens is it starts to disappear from retail stores. It starts to no longer be carried. It starts to be scrubbed off of websites, and then eventually one day, it's fully gone. What happens then is the stock sells out at discounters, and then the price goes and it becomes much more difficult to find. Now, I have videos on the channel talking about discontinuation in more detail if you want to check those out. Some kind of red flags you can look at to determine if your fragrance that you love is possibly getting the axe. So that's usually the reason that you would buy a backup bottle. Other reasons could just be because you love it, and so you want to make sure you've got some just in case. Or reformulations. Sometimes reformulations can happen and the fragrance can change a little bit, so people will scoop up a bunch of one particular formulation so they have more of the one that they know they love. So let's get it kicked off with the fragrance that comes to us from Carlos Pereira 1430. All of these will be linked in the description. He says, Aqua Deo Profundo. Although it gravitates towards summertime, it works amazingly well in other seasons too, and it gets me lots of compliments. This is actually a really good choice, I feel like, because Aqua Deo Profundo is turning into Aqua Deo Profundo 2024. As of when I'm filming this video, none of us knows exactly what that means. The bottle is changing, and it looks like the fragrance might be changed a bit as well, but how much? Don't know. The entire Aqua Deo line at this point is being revamped with new 2024 iterations, the Eau de Toilette, the Eau de Parfum, and Profundo. All three are getting new bottles. The note breakdown on some of them is changing slightly, or in some cases is being streamlined heavily in terms of the Eau de Toilette. And so again, at this point, it is hard to tell. Is the 2024 iteration of Profundo going to be literally the exact same and they're just changing the style of the bottle because they feel like it? Or is this something where they're trying to bring that entire Aqua Deo line in together more cohesively, maybe tweaking the fragrances a little bit along the way? Yeah, we'll see. One thing is for sure though, if you love this version of Profundo, it may be a good idea to pick up a backup bottle that comes in a bottle that looks like this and not the new version. Ultimately, it could be nothing. The new Profundo could come out and just be truly a different bottle. It's just a different looking bottle. But I do feel like if it comes out and it changes, then a lot of people are really going to want this because they'll say, no, I want it the way I remembered, not the way that you changed it to. Before we jump into the next fragrance, here are some codes that you can use if you shop online at any of these stores. GS11, 11% off flat across the entire website at fragflex.com, great discounter. And one other thing, my fragrance, Blue Ridge, is now South Slope, and it's back out. It has been sold out for months. I've gotten a lot of people hitting me up asking what's the deal with it. Well, we relaunched it under a new name. There will be more about that later, but it is called South Slope. It is the exact same fragrance. So every Perfumania, every fragrance outlet, you can check that out in those stores across the US or down in the description below at Michael Malul's website, along with my other fragrances, the two new ones, Edgewater and West Loop. All right, enough of that. Up next, Jazz Never Sleeps 7333 says, hey Ashton, voting for Stronger With You absolutely is. It's one of my absolute favorite winter scents, and it's rumored to be discontinued, but still popping up here and there. It's safe to call it Stronger With You, unfortunately, from now on. Stronger With You, unfortunately. Oh, unfortunately discontinued. Yeah, this is one of those things as well with discontinuations. You will hear rumors all over the place, and sometimes you'll have a fragrance that's rumored to be discontinued for quite a while, and then it's not, it's fine. And then other times, You'll hear about a rumor of discontinuation and then literally like a month later, you can't find it anywhere. It can be very frustrating. Stronger With You absolutely though is fantastic. I love this scent. Really nice performance, huge compliment puller. People love the way that it smells. My favorite in the entire Stronger With You lineup, which is a very strong fragrance line in general, both in terms of performance and just how many solid scents they have. This is difficult to find. It is expensive at discounters. It's really not even discounted. Most of the time that you find this at discounters, it's over $100. And yet, even with that high price point, it's worth it. And this is gonna be one of those ones where when it truly does become near impossible to find, the price will probably creep up even higher than it is now. It wouldn't surprise me to have it, crest $200, but I don't wanna wish that evil on this. So we'll just say that will never happen. Martin Newhofer 2802 says the original Valentino Uomo Eau de Toilette has become one of my favorites and hardly anyone outside the community wears it. That is 100% true. This is something I've harped on it a bunch just to kind of drive the point home, but what gets talked about in the community is not always what people are wearing when you're talking about just your average person who's going out to Macy's or Sephora or Ulta or wherever and buying their fragrances. So while, a lot of us may say, oh, the original Valentino Uomo is so amazing, a lot of people are not wearing this, are not even aware of this. To them, when you say Valentino Uomo, they're thinking born in Roma. But God, this is so, so, so good, like you said. It is elegant, it's sophisticated, classy. It has a nice sweetness to it as well. Kind of plays along in the same style as Dior Homme, not 2020, but original, but has less of a makeup-y powdery feel to it, a little more sweetness, as I said, and then has that nuttiness in there as well. Just an absolutely fantastic scent. And with this one, I saw people leaving comments saying, well, if you like this one, you should pick it up soon. It's been discontinued, which has been a whole thing with Valentino Uomo and Uomo Intense. So it came out and then it disappeared from everywhere. And everyone was like, it's discontinued, you can't find it. And it was like that for a long time. But then turns out they were actually just changing the presentation and they relaunched it essentially. There was more stuff going on behind the scenes as to why there was that transitional period, but we don't need to get into that, just talking solely about this fragrance here. So it came back out and then was discontinued again. And this time it looks like for real, because if you go to the Valentino website, at least last time I looked, the fragrance page on their website says discontinued. So if the fragrance brand itself is actually willing for once to say, hey, it's discontinued for real this time, you probably want to take that seriously. Up next, Sir Siage Sniffington says, Lalique Encre Noir because it's dirt cheap, and if it ever gets discontinued or massively changed, we'll all wish we bought it back up when we could. That is dead on. Absolutely. It is cheap and has been cheap for a long time. It's one of those fragrances that constantly is talked about as an amazing deal for the price point, and I think it is. Do I think it's a safe blind buy for your average person? I do not. But as far as just the quality, the bang for your buck, fantastic. But here's the deal with this one. This is massively popular with a little subsect of the fragrance world. Right? This is not something that's selling at any of these levels. Never has. But here's the deal. Even though it's crazy inexpensive at discounters, at retail, it's actually decently pricey. At least when you look at what it goes for at discounters, you're like, oh, that's more than I expected. Because at discounters, it's like $20 to $25. At retail, it's $130. Bit of a difference, yeah. So what I think will happen with this, if it ever gets discontinued, which I don't know if it will, but if it does, or if it gets massively changed, as Sir Siage Sniffington points out, is the price is gonna go up a lot. I'll point back to Midnight in Paris. That fragrance was very popular, like Encre Noir, in the community, but not in general. When it was discontinued, the price skyrocketed, and that one was also really cheap. It's pretty much the exact same thing I think would happen with this. So yeah, Encre Noir, if you love it, I could absolutely see picking up an extra bottle because again, it's like 25 bucks. Are you gonna miss 25 bucks that much? Probably not. If it gets discontinued though, and the price goes up to 250, Sorv5790 says, another Lalique, Ombre Noir, a complete sleeper hit. Aren't most of Lalique's sleeper hits? yeah, kind of, from last year. Freaking fantastic, even better. This is niche quality below designer prices. So this one actually came out quite a while ago. It didn't come out last year, but in the US, it became easier to find last year. It's actually been out though for a number of years. That being said, it does smell amazing. The quality is there. Once again, kind of similar to Ombre Noir, where you smell this and you're like, man, how is that so cheap? And the answer is, well, at retail, it's not. This is yet another one though that I could see, you know, kind of going the way of the dinosaur and then the price going whoop, because this is one where people within the fragrance world who have smelled it go, oh man, that is insane. And so a lot of people that get this one very much enjoy it and want to keep it. Cognac, myrrh, tobacco, cinnamon, some of the notes in there. It is absolutely fantastic stuff. So backup bottle of that, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Put these little guys right next to each other. Breakthrough says Boss Bottle Pacific. It's definitely hard to find at discounters. High priority on the backup bottle list because it gets serious compliments and it's pretty unique. Actually, I agree. Boss Bottle Pacific is very, very, very good. It blew away my expectations, just annihilated them because my expectations were very low, very, very low. Salty, fresh, coconutty, a great beach fragrance, vacation fragrance. Quality is good, compliment factor is there. Solid, solid release. The problem with this one is that this is, you know, a bit of a limited release. That's an issue. It's surprisingly good. Smells very, very nice. As I said before, I actually think it's great. But being a limited summertime release, it's basically for 1 year and then it's out of here. If you look it up on Hugo Boss's website, it says right there, limited edition. It says sold out. Those two things are not very good when you put them together. As of when I'm filming this, it's available at Joma Shop, a 200 ml size of it, for 110 bucks. And that's pretty much it. So this is gonna be one of those fragrances where if you love it, you probably should scoop it up because more than likely in the future, it's gonna be somehow even harder to find, which really sucks because this one's very good, better than a lot of the stuff they put out. Chris Knighting 7685 says Wanted by Night is definitely backup bottle worthy. My favorite of all the Wanted fragrances, and it doesn't hurt that it can be hard to find at all. It does hurt. You want to find it. Wanted by Night, man, I like it. I like it a lot. I always have enjoyed it. It's another one where maybe not the safest blind buy for somebody, especially if they're just getting into fragrances, but it smells great. What was even greater about it was it used to be crazy cheap. It did. This, at one point, you could find sub $30 all day. Fragrance Net had it for next to nothing. Fragrance Buy, next to nothing. Fragrance X, next to nothing. Everybody was selling it for super cheap. And then it started to not be in stock as much. And then the price started to go up. Those two things are not good. Those are red flags. Nowadays, it is, as Chris says, hard to find at all often in the US. You can go look at each website and sometimes it's sold out at all of them. Right now, I think they have bottles at maybe Joma Shop again for like $80. I looked it up before the video, but I forget exactly which website it was. But again, about 80 bucks. And that is, you know, 2.5 times or more, even 3 times more than what it used to go for back a couple years ago. So Wanted by Night, this is gonna be one of those ones where I do actually suggest you pick up a backup bottle sooner rather than later. Caveman Pro 83, Prada Luna Rosa Black. That's all he said, that's all he's gotta say. Another one I agree with, actually. This is, kind of pains me to say, but I feel like Luna Rosa Black, if you really love it and you do want a backup bottle, that's another fragrance I'd probably want to get sooner than later. I think it's just one of those scents that resonates more with people who are into fragrances more so than your average Joe. I think it's amazing. I think it does everything that you want for a fall and wintertime fragrance. Good uniqueness. Some people will say it's not unique because, you know, it smells a little similar to one fragrance or another, and the fragrance that they're comparing them to are ones that have been discontinued for a long time, or it's like some very niche fragrance that very few people know about, which you can't really use that argument because when you say something is decently unique as an everyday fragrance, right? you're talking about what it's going up against out there. You know, the Sauvages of the world and stuff. Does Lunar Rosa Black smell unique compared to most of the stuff people are wearing? Absolutely. So that's kind of the way I view it. I know some people view it differently, and that's fine too. So I don't mean to say that that other way of viewing Lunar Rosa Black as not being super unique is wrong. Just how I view it is different. But yeah, to me, very unique, good compliment puller, and just smells great, man. To me, it's just fantastic. So this is one that I personally do want a backup bottle of, and I keep putting it off. Maybe this will spur me to actually do it. Tony Gicks 01, Tony G Hicks, Tony G Hicks 01. Honestly, the next backup will be Bleu Chanel. It will always be a classic and a staple in my collection. Now, I would not have included this one, but it got a bunch of upvotes. So I was like, okay, in it goes. I think of everything we're gonna talk about here today, Bleu Chanel is the safest of the bunch. I don't think you need a backup bottle unless you just love the fragrance and you wanna always make sure you got one there in case you drop a bottle and break it, you've got another one, or you just wear it a whole heck of a lot and so you know you're gonna go through that other bottle, something like that. Bleu Chanel is one of the absolute best-selling men's fragrances in the world. So I don't think there's any risk of discontinuation here. So I think you're safe with this one. Yeah, I don't think there's much worry. You know, most of these here, some of them for sure have, you know, they're already walking down the green mile, but some of these here, I can see like, oh yeah, you probably wanna get a backup of that. Bleu Chanel, if you love it, get yourself a backup, but don't feel stressed about it. Semi-Smooth Criminal 976 says, I recently finished collecting backups of the entire Roberto Cavalli Uomo line. I love them, and they are often hard to get. That's true. I am also trying to get backups of all the Galleria Parfums fragrances, though I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about those on the channel anymore. So 2 parts there. First up, Cavalli Uomo. Yes, yes, backups of that line, yes. But unfortunately, the only one that you can find with regularity nowadays seems to be the original, which is still really good. But man, some of those other ones were just really nice. La Notte, Deep Desire, Silver Essence, just great stuff. Especially when you could find them for like 40 bucks. Unfortunately, those were fragrances, which we get this time to time, where they come out and it's like, oh man, get this, it's good. And oh, they're gone. And then everybody thinks, oh, it just sold out. You know, just wait a couple weeks, come back in stock, I'll scoop up another bottle. And then they never came back in stock. That's basically the entire Cavalli Uomo line. If you can find those for a price that's not absurd, get them. They're really, really good. And even this one, Uomo, is very good as well. It's just unfortunately, yeah, that whole line just. And Galleria, yeah, it's one of those things, man. At the time, it was like a double-edged sword, you know, a double-edged blade. I learned a lot from it, and I also learned a lot from it. So by that, I mean, I learned some positive things, where it was like, oh, cool, I can use those things going forward, and some things to watch out for going forward as well. You know, like putting yourself into a situation where you thought it was gonna be one thing, but it was actually another. And part of that falls on me as well for not, I guess, crossing all of my T's and dotting all of my I's. And that's partially on me as well. So yeah, with Galleria, I learned a lot. I have no ill will toward anybody. It's been like 2 years, I think at least, since I've spoken to anyone who is even remotely involved with that. So it's all right. You know, things happen. Things don't work out for one reason or another, and you just keep it moving. So wish them all the best with Novitus and Vivamore. Oh, by the way, some of you guys put West Loop that you need to get backup bottles of West Loop. That's good. There's no discontinuation or anything going on with that one, so you're good. I mean, if you want to buy backup bottles of West Loop, go for it, man. But you're in no danger of like waking up one day and, oh, they're all gone. So there we go. These are the 10 bottles that you guys say that you need backup bottles of right now. I think that I agree. I think like everything up here, you better be safe than sorry. There we go. Thank you guys. Stay safe out there. See you tomorrow.